Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of the Construction and Demolition Recycling Association. I've been in this role for about 6 months. Prior to this, I was a boots on the ground, knee deep in the trash facility operator for construction and demolition debris and recycling, and I also ran a hauling company for 12 years. I became executive director after being a member of our association and on the board for many, many years, and then I stepped into this role. So for me personally, the value of associations is very close to heart. I sit here today with Jessica Wilson and
Amanda Mueller.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Amanda. And Amanda Mueller. And I apologize here. Amanda is the Director of Membership and Engagement for the National Ready Mix Concrete Association. She's been there about 5 years. Prior to that, for 6 years, she was with the Concrete Industry Management Program. Her biggest focuses are relationship building, connecting, and helping members find true value. Jessica Wilson is the Director of Education and Technical Services for the Carolinas Ready Mix Concrete Association. She has over a decade of industry and advocacy experience, and she is really passionate about supporting the resilient and responsible construction practices. She was just named the CRMCA Promoter of the Year. She just secured a $64 million transportation materials grant, congratulations, and created the Concrete and Conservation Series. That's a big one, yeah, big one. She is from Winnebago, North Carolina, owns a farm, and is an avid angler and mother of 2. So, Amanda, tell us a little bit about your association.
So I could spend all day talking about the NRMCA, but I know we're very limited on time. So I'm going to shorten this up with my notes to keep me honest here. So NRMCA is headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia. We've been around for nearly 100 years. No surprise, our core membership is made up of ready mix producers as well as our supporting members, which are associate members. So that's manufacturers, products, services, materials, concrete contractors. Arguably, if you are doing business in this space, you should be a member of the association, and we should talk outside. So we have approximately 450 ready mix producer members. That does not count subsidiaries, so that's probably closer to 600, and then we have about 200 associate members.
Excellent. And CRMCA was founded in 1951, so we're approaching our 75th anniversary this year, which is very exciting for us. We have 50 producer members, and the rest are associates. So in total, we have 209. And so that composition looks to about a 25 to 75% breakdown there. But with that being said, our main focus is to promote the industry, increase market share, advocate on behalf of concrete and our respective membership at large, and then moreover deliver impactful education to our members.
Nice. The CDRA, which is what we're most known for, our acronym there, is that we have about 270 members, and primarily half of them are recyclers, the rest are vendors, government, and contractors that make that up. So the goal of this panel is to assist all of you in understanding the value of associations and how that can promote technology and the advancements that you all are making in this sector. So, Jessica, my first question is to you. How are you helping your members promote technology and increase technology in their operations?
Yeah, so I look at it from a threefold kind of perspective. I really personally look at the operational component of ready mix production in particular as being a massive leverage point for our producers to have both a financial return on their investments, whether that's ROI or water reclamation systems. I look at it from a holistic perspective because my background is in building sciences. So from an audit standpoint, I'm looking at how are we closing the loop in our systems to then reinvest profits that are saved from water reclamation, say recycled materials, as well as cement reduction and mix design optimization opportunities. That is where my focus is from a technical standpoint for our members. And so it's more formulating a business case. So prior to this conference, I talked to a few of our producer members to say, okay, let's say I'm coming into your office, I'm establishing a case study, I'm selling you essentially a product. What is your ROI from an owner perspective? And so all of my owners that I spoke to said, okay, 3 years, we're definitely looking at it. 2 years, I'm listening. 1 year, why didn't I do this last year, right? And so with that being said, it's really about what are their goals as a company? Are they trying to sell, right? That's a whole different conversation. Moreover, what's their appetite for new technology? That's a behavioral piece. So that's the second kind of component that I talked about. And the third is, do they trust you? So that's a big piece of it, right? So it's a trust but verify. You could come in with an ROI that looks spectacular on paper, but if they're hesitant or they're still just kind of on the fence with regards to the massive changes that we're all experiencing as a collective industry, that's going to take some more relationship management and just time, right? So there's a time component there too.
And I would say that not every member is built the same. You know, at the national level, we have the, you know, the vertically integrated folks, all the way to the folks that are calling and saying, I'm about to buy my first batch plan. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an exciting time. So everybody has different, I guess, expectations about where they're going and how fast they can go.
That's really excellent. Thank you, guys. That's really good. So I think a lot of it too isn't timing. Well, a little bit where they are in their process, but also exposure. Somebody yesterday, I can't remember who, one of the panel members talked about, often we're so knee deep in the operational day-to-day that looking at bringing in technology or incorporating that or changing processes can seem really daunting. So my question is, how can this group who are innovating and they're bringing these new technologies help us as associations really help our members, right? Because we have, you know, between the three of us, we have, 1,000 companies who are reached out to associations for knowledge and education. How can this sector help us help them?
I think it's speaking up and speaking up really loud. And sometimes you might need to throw something at us. We're all really busy. Everybody has their needs in the moment because it's always on fire. We're always reactive versus proactive. But I think we look to you guys to be really the experts that we can lean on and say, hey, we want to help. This is how we can help, and keep coming with that message. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Absolutely. And I'll just add, because I have that twofold technical service standpoint and education delivery standpoint, making sure that we create platforms intentionally to elevate all of our services that would help our producer members in the room. That's what I strategically do in my educational planning. So I look at our collective membership base and I say, okay, what are the services offered here? What are the immediate needs of our members today? And then look far beyond from a long-term perspective. What do they, they're dealing with running a business, right? So they're always busy, constantly. But my job is to look 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 30 years down the road from an educational standpoint to prepare them, to guide them through the transition that we will inevitably have as our industry transforms.
It's interesting, having attended yesterday and looking at the presentations that I saw, there's so many things that I thought, wow, our members could really use that. I know as an operator, I thought, wow, I wish I had that technology. And so I approached the different vendors and asked them to present to our membership, because I know would be valuable. It would have been valuable to me as an operator. So I know it will be valuable to others in our association. So my ask of you, as you innovate and as you move forward, reach out to us, because we don't always know that you're there. Our vendor members in our association are some of our strongest, I would say players, but they lead they lead us in moving our members forward, honestly, because you do build trust. You just talked about trust and building that trust through the membership over the years of knowing somebody. They might not be ready at that exact moment. Once again, we talked about timing, but when you build these relationships, when somebody says, hey, you know what, I think I'm ready for that, and I remember seeing that at a conference, and they reach out to that vendor because they have those relationships, I think that's really where you see the value of associations, because outside of that, outside of associations, how do you build those memberships? And those relationships, how do you build that trust if you don't have exposure to people? So that would be my first thing, is the interacting with members is so valuable. I think also let us know what you have. I mean, as a new director, I don't know about you guys how often you're approached, but sometimes I don't know what's out there. So I don't know what I can bring to members because I don't know it exists. So definitely, I think, be more active in reaching out, obviously participating in associations as well. Do you guys give opportunities in your association, either at your conferences or maybe throughout the year in committee meetings or something, for people to present technology?
Not as much as we probably should be. It's a fine line. We try to be Switzerland on some of this stuff, but I am proud to say, if for those who are coming to Concrete Works in October, there's going to be demos, there's going to be learning labs physically in the expo hall, and that's something we've never done before, but that's based on the feedback from our membership, the folks that are sitting in the associate seats. So we're excited about that, but yeah, I've been hearing that for all 5 years I've been at the association. How can we get in front of your producer members? And I think we're finally getting some traction and can move forward with that.
Yeah, I would agree that it's certainly a fine line, right? If I'm developing an educational session and it's high impact, and I want to engage our associate members that have products that they ideally would like to sell to our producer members, right? That's your goal. I specifically tailor that educational session to be subject matter expert based, right? So if I have a panelist for AI producing to our producer members, I want them to talk about the evolution of AI within the concrete sector and how that's going to impact our producers. They're not selling their product, they're sharing their ideas. And I think that's very important, because as soon as our producer members feel like you're selling them something, that's where there's like an ethical boundary that might be crossed, right? And so I'm very intentional well in advance, preparing our panelists, preparing our members to tailor a very strategic message based on whatever holistically they're trying to deliver, right? You're delivering a service, you're delivering whatever. AI specifically lately has been a huge topic, and I think it's appropriate for this conference. But again, they're not selling a product.
So really taking an educational and learning approach is, we do the same, because you can't endorse one vendor over another. That's great. So we see a lot of new innovation with AI and otherwise circle around data and data collection, the use of data. That was a big topic yesterday on the panel. Reporting of data. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is data and data management to your membership and even to yourself as an association?
I'm going to speak for my members. I don't know the answer to that probably from an average, but I'm going to say 10. Data is important. Work smarter, not harder. Is Luis in here? He is in here. Hi, Luis. So we have a business advancement committee here at NRMCA, and there's an IT task force. So data, you guys definitely talk about it. We talk about it in BAC. It's the future.
Yeah, and I'd say for now, if I'm being honest, it's probably an 8, because I feel like larger producers are typically the ones leading in the market from a resource standpoint. But from an equity standpoint, I also have to consider our small producers and our mid-sized producers. I would say larger producers have already adopted, not all for sure, but new innovative technologies for sure. I've seen that. So that's not really a case that I need to bring to them. But the mid is where I'm working right now and really preparing. What I'm nervous about, admittedly, is making sure our small producer members aren't left behind in this transition. So from a data standpoint, What I'm doing from an educational lens is preparing them on life cycle assessment from an operational standpoint, right? I want them to be able to save money in their operations, educate them in the process so that they can then reinvest in these new technologies. Because it's really a unique business case for each producer, to your point. They're totally different. You know, you might be producing 300,000 cubic yards a year, or you could be far surpassing that. That's a whole different conversation. So it's really about knowing your customer and your member and how they operate and how they function. So that's that relationship piece. But I would say from a data-centric standpoint, I personally am very much passionate about operational data, but the challenge then becomes you have so much data, how do you make sure it's accurate? How do you make sure it's protected from an IT standpoint? I came from a large company that also dealt with data management in the concrete sector, and that was a massive issue. Are our producer members equipped with IT teams to deal with cybersecurity? I mean, data is the driver of the future, and it's the driver right now. But how are you managing your data? Do your producers even know how to analyze said data? Right? There's a lot of gaps there.
Yeah, I think data is really an interesting point, and we're just going to see more and more of it. On Tuesday, I met with the city of Austin, who has been a long-time CDRA member, over 11 years, and I asked them what one of their biggest challenges were, and they said data and data collection. Now, they're trying to get it from contractors to close out their building permits. Last week I met with the EPA, and they're saying, hey, do you guys have data on this? I mean, it's coming for not just operationally. I think the scope is even larger than that. You know, we have government contractors, you know, if they're doing LEEDs projects or whatever, they need the data. They need good data, right? And they need it in a form that's usable. So it's not just getting data, it's having it in a format that can be utilized, easily harvested, and interpreted and then put back out. So I think that I agree with both of you. This is going to be a huge thing going forward, and anybody in that sector really has opportunity to help advance this on a really big level, way beyond just the operator, you know, way beyond that. So. Jess, you mentioned something about ROI and using technology for basically operational cost savings to be able to reinvest that savings into advancing your program. I find that very, very interesting, and I feel that that is something that is really not understood by most operators, including myself. When I was an operator, I didn't always understand the new technologies coming out, being able to calculate that ROI, because I'm worried about a hydraulic hose being broken and so didn't show up for work and all those things. How are you assisting members in calculating that? Can you kind of maybe give a little bit of understanding so as these people go forward and talk about it, they can utilize that to help?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I will go immediately to, say, a technology provider or any type of company that is a producer member to assess what they're offering for our producers, right? And then I'll ask them the questions that they all have the answers to, which is, what is your typical ROI? What does that look like for a small, mid-sized, large producer? And then what are the challenges that you have in implementing said technology? Because that's a real thing too. I know that I'm not selling their product. I'm saying these are what you have as solutions to your business from a technical standpoint. Personally, again, my goal is to reduce emissions, increase profit for all businesses, including our associates alike, right? And so what I do is I gather that information. It's a bit of a discovery process. Then I meet personally, or I have personal phone calls with our producer members, and I say, hey, would you be interested in said technology? Recently, I did it for a company that works in reclaiming and purifying water to then reuse that in the mixes that they get out the gate. And so I said, well, be honest with me. How much does this cost on average? What's the difference between a producer that's on well water versus on city water? What is the average cost per gallon of water, right? So I go through all this type of like business discovery, and then I then present that to producer members because, again, I'm kind of in the middle. And they say, yeah, I'm interested. Let's have a conversation, right? So it's kind of, I'm acting as a conduit and as a translator for services for our associate members and the technologies that they offer and they bring to the table. But because I have systems thinking kind of integrated into my being because of working at U.S. Green Building Council, that I was always having to make a case for like, how do all of these play into the bigger narrative for an ROI? And so that's what I do. And some of our producer members, they are fully aware. They're like, yeah, we don't need to talk about that. But mid-sized producers and small producers are like, let's like break this down a little bit. And so that's what I do, right? It just really depends on their comfort level and their educational experience.
And the trust, right?
Yeah, Amanda, we talked about a little bit the resistance that some members have to innovation. What do you think is a good way to help them feel more safe and secure about innovating, or do you feel that it's more of just they just don't have the ability to process it in their day-to-day, and I don't want to say they don't have time for it, but it feels overwhelming to them maybe.
Yeah, I think it's scary. Sometimes no one really likes to be probably too vulnerable, especially about their business. And I think I pride myself on having really sincere relationships with our members if I had the opportunity to do that, and having that line of trust for them to come forward. And, sustainability was a scary word. 1L cement, scary word. But if the member can come forward and say, hey, we've got this going on, I don't know what to do, and we can provide the service or the resource to them in a way that they don't feel stupid about asking the question. But it comes back to us too as an association to make sure we're doing everything we can to over-communicate how we can help the members. Obviously, you guys pay dues to us. We've got to make sure that we're making it very clear how we can help you. I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but about 5 years ago when we started doing onboarding calls with our members. I can't talk about the association in 60 minutes, but I can talk to you about your top 3 pain points and walk through those things. So technology, mid-size to a small-size producer, those are the folks experiencing it, and they might be too scared to bring it up, but we go ahead and proactively start to talk about these things. Is there an interest? And you might see a little bit of a wiggle on the other side of the camera being like, maybe. But I think we just got to keep communicating about it. But again, the vendors in this room, you guys got to keep coming to the table too, because we need you to help support these conversations.
That's great, really well said. We have, at the CDRA, we have committee meetings, gypsum, shingle, aggregate committees, and market committees. And on these calls, our members, they talk about what their pain points are. You talked about pain points. And I always tell our vendors, you can get so much information by just being a fly on the wall in these meetings, because the recyclers will tell you 100% what they need and where their biggest challenges are, and then it helps you know how to address them. So I think too, just being open to listening, as associations, we are listening, going out, doing member visits and so forth, listening. And I know that one of our, I'm sure for me, one of my biggest questions is, what is your biggest challenge? I'm sure it is for you as well. And they'll tell you, they will absolutely tell you what their needs are and where they're struggling. So I think that's a really great point. What do you feel your greatest membership value is? And either one of you can go. You
go first.
I would say it's more of a community value. I was thinking about this previous to this conference because there's plenty of value propositions that I could give to our members. We advocate on behalf of you. We increase market share. We promote your products. We do all of that. That's the bare minimum. But there's something very unique about association culture that it really truly builds a community beyond your products, right? And I think that's the most valuable thing about associations and any type of culture that is based on human connection. And so that would be the top for me as to why you would join.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to steal your answer too. I completely agree. I think most of the people in this room they're excited to work with concrete or help support the industry, but it's really the people we're excited about, the people, the connections we get to make. That's why I work in it. I mean, I'm still trying to educate my family after almost a decade that there's a difference between concrete and cement. And it's a special place to call home, and I think our members feel that. And, I think I mentioned earlier, every member joins an association for different reasons, but it's the community culture there in terms of staff being overly helpful in helping them find the ROI and their resources and benefits.
No, I agree completely. I was speaking with one of our members, Andrew. I don't see him here this morning, but with Eco Materials yesterday, and he said, one of the things that he really likes about being a member is that he knows he's with people who have the same value sets as him. People who are value recycling, value recovery, value good business practices, right? Not everybody values good business practices. Not everybody is trying to do the right thing and have a company with great culture and safe and so forth. So to be with other people in your industry who have that same value set is really important. And I know for myself, when I was an operator and prior to joining the CDRA, I felt really alone. I was rural Virginia, and I didn't know anybody else in the industry. And after joining the association, being in connect with other members who had facilities all over the nation, the fact that they said, hey, come see my facility, and I could go to see their operation and learn from them and help improve my operation, or if there were issues or challenges, it was really comforting. And I think that is something that is really unique about associations. Every member type is going to join the association for a different reason, right? You have your operators who are looking to operate better. You may have your government sector who's looking to bring that sector into their area. I don't know if you have that as much as recycling does. We have contractors who are looking for places to take the material. They want to work with reputable companies. They're looking for concrete manufacturers who can help with the carbon footprint and things like that. And we have manufacturers in recycling who are looking for recycled content. So looking at and understanding what all the drivers are to the membership, and of course the vendors who say, hey, I have a product and I want to solve your problem. And getting that to work in harmony. But if you think about it, nobody in that circle can do it by themselves. Everybody needs everybody in the circle, and I think that an advantage of the associations is we create the opportunity for all of those different sectors to meet up together and solve the problems, and I think that's a huge advantage. Do you think, what is the primary reason you think that, I know we talked about value, but why do you think the primary reason people join? Which is a little bit different, because the people who find value in associations stay, right? But other people join. They may join, oh, I want a discount on the conference, and you never see them again. But why do people actually join and reach out, in your opinion?
They want to run a profitable business. They want to make money, and they need resources to help them do that. I mean, we're in the business of making concrete, but ultimately we want to make money doing those things. So I think for us at the association, we do so many different things, and identifying how we can help a specific member with whatever it may be, but at the end of the day, they just want to be more profitable.
Yeah, and I would say access to resources and to people, right? There are closed opportunities when you join an association to network with certain individuals that you may never be able to have conversations with, right? There's definitely access to education. So while you're in, knee deep in the thick of just running your business, you can't also be the one trying to search out educational offerings, right? So there's ease of access to the things that you need as a company. Yeah, that would be it. I would say access to resources and advocacy. I have to mention advocacy because our association also has lobbyists, at least CRMCA does, and they are where we can't be, right? Even for a CRMCA staff person, to your point, we can't do it alone. So it's helpful to have experts that are interacting on the legislative side and advocating on behalf of our industries, whatever that issue may be at the time.
And because she said a second one, networking, that's another big piece of the pie. A lot of people love to have that peer-to-peer conversation. Hey, I'm operating in California. I'm having these issues. Bob in Minnesota, please help me. You've already gone through it. But it goes back really truly to the community aspect. It's just a big family. That's how I treat my membership. I think that's how you treat your membership. We just love what we do.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We want to open it up for some questions if anybody has questions. We've got about 5 minutes left. Yeah. Oh, just 1 second. They're going to bring a mic to you.
You talked about data and about connecting various systems. I'm curious if we as a group somewhere are working on a data standard. What's a concrete ticket? What's a replenishment ticket? What's a materials ticket? And this is the standard for it, and we can all share that data. And no one vendor owns it. It's the standard that we can give it to the DOTs, and I think they'd be real happy with that. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, that sounds like something that would really help move things forward.
Yeah, we've started the process with some of those things. We've had some suppliers or organizations reach out to us saying, hey, we need to do this for your members, for the industry at large. I know e-ticketing was a big piece, especially during COVID, so that came out. I don't know if we've actually issued a proper standard for the industry at large, but there is a vendor that is kind of holding that to that level. But I think that's a perfect example of we need to have these conversations more about those types of things. I imagine if I talk to some of my producer friends in the room, they'd say, yeah, right, John? Yeah.
Three different standards. Oh, thank you. The IT task force has a list of their first tier, second tier, and third tier that they've combined from multiple DOTs across the country. I don't think we've come out with it fully. And when Luis comes in, I can ask what the status of that is, or they'll probably, I'm sure it's one of the topics they're going over next month.
Thanks, Jill.
And I'd say we lean in on National Ready Mix Concrete Association for those standards. So we obviously have our collective committees that work respectively with our DOTs, specifically to your point. But beyond that, I will say that there are always going to be some obvious variations. Like I work a lot with performance-based specifications. And so we have a standardized performance-based spec, or at least guidelines for that when we talk about that at the state level. But then you have your regional benchmarking considerations, right? And access to certain materials and access to certain cements and, different types of conditions for the actual science behind concrete. So I think we can certainly have some standards. There's going to be some inevitable variations.
Yeah, hi. So I just wanted to say two things. First of all, Truck Pay, we're actually CDRA members, and it's an amazing organization. So I will put in a shameless plug for CDRA. But also, with respect to the e-ticketing stuff, the folks at Minnesota DOT have actually really been leading the charge. Her name is Rebecca, and I can't remember her last name right now, but there's been a tremendous amount of work certainly done in terms of asphalt e-ticketing, some in aggregates and some in concrete. So there are a bunch of standards and and some companies who have been adopting them as part of their fleet system. So you might want to have a look at that. And this is something actually we're looking at doing in the scale world as well. So the need for uniformity is clear, and it really is something we should get to as an industry.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, if anybody has one. Right over here.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd just like to commend all of you guys up there and any of the associations that we're a part of. They're essential to the whole industry. But one thing I think needs to be a little more focus on is subcommittees dedicated to the new innovations that are coming at us all. You know, I think the elephant in the room, when you look at the association events, the average age is above 55 at the vast majority of those gatherings. You know, we deal with it all the time where you've got folks who are within 5 or 10 years of retiring out of the industry, and they're not able to grapple with what's coming at us all with the dawn of AI. So I think maybe a little more focus on subcommittees dedicated to the dawn of AI, because those older folks, which I am now drifting into that, whether I like it or not, a lot of those folks just can't grapple what's coming at them, you know.
You know, that's a really good point. We have seen a lot of our recyclers are family-owned businesses, so they're generational, and we see, you know, one generation kind of fading out and the next generation coming in, and a huge difference in what they're trying to do to innovate, to bring some of these historically, you know, they've operated kind of at one level for many years, and now, you know, a new younger generation's coming in trying to innovate and advance in the technology side. So I agree, making the opportunity and having subcommittees and so forth available for them to learn and grow is a great idea. Thank you. All right, well, thank you so much for having us today. Amanda, Jess, thank you so much, and we appreciate it, and everybody have an amazing conference.